There are a lot of really brave moments in The Lord of the Rings, book and movies. I think everyone kind of has their favorite movie moments. And I think some of my favorite book moments are moments when Frodo stands up against the Ringwraiths, after traveling for 14 days with a stab wound, when he wasn't saved by Arwen, but was prodded on a horse ahead of the entire group by himself by Glorfindel. And then in the same moment when he would cross the river, he turns back toward the nine Ringwraiths and he's by himself on a horse with a stab wound. And they're chasing him, and he turns back and says, "By Elbereth and Luthien the Fair," said Frodo with a last effort, lifting up his sword, "you shall have neither the ring nor me." Now, when I was reading that for the first time, I was pretty much on my feet cheering for Frodo because he was showing remarkable bravery and courage. And it's kind of tragic because moviegoers don't know that scene. Or another scene that I think is from the books that is brave but in a different kind of brave way is when Merry, Pippin, and Sam all decide that they are going to come with Frodo of their own free will and voluntarily. The movies have this to some extent, but the books have it so much better. And they have one of my favorite lines ever spoken of in the entire book when Merry says, "It all depends on what you want," put in Merry. "You can trust us to stick to you through thick and thin to the bitter end. And you can trust us to keep any secrets of yours closer than you can keep it yourself. But you cannot trust us to let you face trouble alone and go off without a word. We are your friends, Frodo." Anyway, there it is. We know most of what Gandalf has told you. We know a good deal about the ring. We are horribly afraid, but we are coming with you. Or following you like hounds. This is bravery against the unknown foes. And I think it's incredible that these four hobbits are showing this level of bravery. And there are other brave moments, and maybe more brave and brash moments in this story too. One of my favorite Boromir moments was when he kind of jumps out with Aragorn and he seeks to help Gandalf fight against the Balrog. He even blows his horn while he jumps, and this horn actually stops the Balrog dead in its tracks for a half second before the fighting commences. And Aragorn and Boromir just take a charge here. It's a really cool section. It kind of comes out of nowhere, but the book says, "He cannot stand alone," cried Aragorn suddenly, and ran back along the bridge. "Elendil," he shouted, "I am with you, Gandalf." "Gondor," cried Boromir, and leaped after him. I could honestly go on and rattle off like 20 more incredibly brave moments in the books. Like Pippin running out of the line of the orcs when he's captured by them to give Aragorn a trail, or Gimli coming and defending Aragorn, and Éomer in Helm's Deep, and he decapitates these two orcs who were trying to trick them into thinking that they were asleep and dead. It's a great moment. Or when Gimli even suggested a hair from Galadriel's head. That was a very brave moment as well. Or when Gimli defended Galadriel's honor surrounded by 100 riders of Rohan. I could honestly kind of list off every moment that Gimli has, because I think every moment that he has is very brave. But I think the one that I find my favorite has just come up in my reading. Now, I am sure I will find a plethora of other brave moments in these books. And as I keep reading, I just cannot help but think I'm currently reading this for the first time in my life, and I think out of every moment that I've read, this is probably the bravest moment that I've run into thus far. I also think that you should subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of Lord of the Rings first time content, which you can kind of vicariously live through me and my first time read through. If you love this text and you've been reading this every year for the past 20 years, I'm reading it for the first time, so you can kind of just join me on my journey. But this brave moment is from none other than our brave hobbit, Frodo. Yes, Frodo. If you're a movie-only fan, you probably think he's not that brave at all. And Sam is the far braver of the two. But if you read the books, you know how incredible Frodo is. And how time after time he is proving his bravery and dedication to what he must do in order to destroy the ring. And so Frodo and Sam march into Shelob's lair. That's right, Sam never got banished from Frodo's presence and got sent home. He and Frodo go together in the lair of this little demon. And I'm going to write an essay about this because the way they get through it and what the lair is supposed to do is actually quite incredible. But essay to come later about that one. So Frodo and Sam go through this tunnel together. It's pitch black. I mean, you cannot see your hand in front of your face. It's that level of black. And Shelob is said to vomit darkness. So I guess it's pretty dark in there. But every time they wander a little bit further into the tunnel, they feel something that's watching them. These prying eyes. But they can't see anything. And so Sam suggests, kind of out of nowhere, that they use the phial of Galadriel. It's really the first time that they ever use it. I don't know why they didn't think of this before, but I mean, I guess it's like when you have a flashlight and don't really use it on a backpacking trip or something like that, and you just totally forget about it and it's at the bottom of your pack. So I don't know necessarily what this whole thing is. I might talk a bit more about what this phial is because it seems to be more potent than Frodo even knows. But this was a great suggestion by Sam. Also a little terrifying as well. Now they can actually see the beast that assails them. But this is what the book says of this brilliant moment. Not far down the tunnel, between them and the opening where they had reeled and stumbled, he was aware of eyes growing visible, 2 great clusters of many-windowed eyes. The coming menace was unmasked at last. The radiance of the star-glass was broken and thrown back from their 1,000 facets. But behind the glitter, a pale deadly fire began steadily to glow within. A flame kindled in some deep pit of evil thought. Monstrous and abominable eyes they were. Bestial, and yet filled with purpose and hideous delight, gloating over their prey, trapped beyond all hope of escape. If you're not peeing your pants right now, just wait for it. Frodo and Sam, horror-stricken, began slowly to back away, their own gaze held by the dreadful stare of those baleful eyes. But as they backed, so the eyes advanced. Frodo's hand wavered, and slowly the phial drooped. Then suddenly, released from the holding spell to run a little while in vain panic for the amusement of the eyes, they both turned and fled together. But even as they ran, Frodo looked back and saw, with terror at once, the eyes came leaping up behind. The stench of death was like a cloud about him. "Stand! Stand!" he cried desperately. "Running is no use." Slowly the eyes crept nearer. "Galadriel!" he called, and gathering his courage, he lifted up the phial once more. The eyes halted. For a moment their regard relaxed, as if some hint of doubt troubled them. Then Frodo's heart flamed within him, and without thinking what he did, whether it was folly or despair or courage, he took the phial in his left hand, and with his right hand drew his sword. Sting flashed out, and the sharp elven blade sparkled in the silver light, but at its edges a blue fire flickered. Then, holding the star aloft and the bright sword, advanced Frodo, Hobbit of the Shire, walked steadily down to meet the eyes. This is insane. Frodo, rather than being terrified and running away from Shelob, actually confronts her. And not only does he do that, but he walks up to her like he doesn't have a care on this earth. I've talked about this in previous essays, but I think at this point in the story, Frodo kind of feels his fate is tied up. So it almost feels like any decision that he makes, he knows Providence seems to be guiding him. So he's a bit more like, doesn't have a death wish, but just kind of does things without thinking so much of the ramifications. But this is still insane nonetheless. Shelob, what would I say? I probably would view her as the greatest and the scariest thing in these books so far. I'd rather deal with Sauron. I'd rather deal with Smeagol. I'd rather be with a Balrog than be trapped in a dark tunnel with this demon spider. And Frodo and Sam, they try what every single being in Middle-earth would try first. They run, but that doesn't work. And Frodo knows it, and so they stand. Well, Frodo stands, and then when that doesn't really work, he takes the silver light in his hand and his bright sword. Also, another side note, I'm not sure if this sword is bright because on the other side of the cave there are orcs, or because Shelob may keep orcs alive and webbed up for eating there, which is, both are scary options. But anyway, Frodo, Hobbit of the Shire, which I love that line so much. Say who he is and where he's from louder so the people in the back can hear you. And then listen to what happens next. They wavered. Doubt came into them as light approached. One by one they dimmed and slowly they drew back. No brightness so deadly had ever afflicted them before. From sun and moon and star they had been safe underground. But now a star had descended into the very earth. Still it approached, and the eyes began to quail. One by one they all went dark. They turned away, and a great bulk beyond the light's reach heaved its huge shadow in between. They were gone. Frodo prevails. It's not from walking away from danger in this instance that they were saved, but from walking straight into the eyes of danger, or in this case, a demon spider. And then Sam directly after this gives us a response that pretty much sums up how all of us feel and would respond as soon as this is finished. In the book, it says this: "Master, master," cried Sam. He was close behind, his own sword drawn and ready. "Stars and glory! But the elves would make a song of that if they ever heard of it. And may I live to tell them and hear them sing." This is the bravest moment in the entirety of the book so far. I'm sure that there are other brave moments to come, and there are a ton of brave moments that had previously happened, but as I was reading this, I just could not believe the incredible bravery shown by Frodo, Hobbit of the Shire. Anyway, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, and as always, look toward Numenor that was, and beyond to Elvenhome that is, and to that which is beyond Elvenhome and will ever be. I'll see you in the next one.